So Ray, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Maulik. Thank you very much. It's indeed a rare privilege and a pleasure to be in your podcast. It's my first time actually to do this, so it's quite thrilling for me. Thank you.
Of course, and it's a pleasure is all mine, and I'm glad that your podcast debut is with me. Ray, I know a lot of people know you in the country as one of the most astute legal minds. You're also known for a variety of roles that you have played at PLDT and now as the president and CEO of Meralco. But most people may not know about your humble beginning and the fact that when you were during your high school years, were making extra money by washing jeepneys and taxicabs. So tell us about that time of your life.
Right. Well, it's something that not a lot of people are aware. Obviously, I grew up mainly in the streets, Maulik. So I'm a street kid, as you would call it. Had a lot of fun with during those days, but I needed also to make sure that I could go through high school and complete my high school degree. And that was a point in time when the family was a bit challenged financially. And then to help basically put myself through high school, I had to do what most of the street kids were doing then, which is to wash jeepneys and then taxicabs. And I do that during the weekends or even during weekdays when I came back from school. So to earn several pesos to keep myself in school. So that went on for 4 years of my high school life, and until I basically was able to get through college, and then in law school, obviously, life was very tough and rough.
I know, and not many people would be able to relate to that because they have seen you in positions of power in a variety of companies within PLDT Group. What would be interesting for us is if you can connect the dots for us from going through that humble beginning to then topping the bar exam in 1982.
My father was actually a lawyer.
Okay.
But in the later stages of his life, he had some health issues. It was something that was something that I grew up in, and I love to see those law books and everything, and how he would research, do his legal papers, type his pleadings, etc. So yes, I started getting involved in his work. I did some bits and pieces of research for him, and that made me understand what that entire subject matter was all about. So I told my dad, well, I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. He said, well, son, and that was the time of martial law. So there was, he said, well, I don't think it's going to be a good idea, but I persisted, and then here we are.
What did he want you to become? Did he want his son to become a doctor or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, you're better off being a doctor because at least you don't have to go through these problems that the lawyers are having with martial law. Courts could be closed anytime, etc. So I did indulge him. So my college degree was actually a Bachelor's of Science in General, which was a preparatory medicine degree in the University of Santo Tomas. But the good thing is I couldn't get myself into med school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think my grades were just a bit low to make it to the cut for medical school. And that cost me a year of schooling. So I stopped for a year because I couldn't get in. And when I reapplied the following year, I said, well, I'll apply with the same schools again, try my luck. But this time I'm going to apply for law. And I did apply for law school in 2 schools, Ateneo and UST, which is where I graduated for high school and college. And true enough, I was rejected by the medical schools, but I passed the exam in Ateneo. So when I was given the news that I passed, I readily accepted it and signed up for law school in Ateneo. I didn't wait for the results of the other school, which was also favorable. So I had set my eyes and my determination to finish law. So I'm glad. That's why I said, it was serendipitous that I was not accepted in medical school.
So you got into Ateneo Law School. Did you ever aspire to top the bar exam? I mean, was that part of your consciousness?
No, I no aspirations at all to top the bar exams. My main objective was to finish law school and to make the cut in grades, because I was on a scholarship in law school. I had to maintain a certain grade point every semester. So that was my only goal, to keep my grades up there, so I can get scholarship every semester. So yeah, and a lot of reading, a lot of hard work, long hours in the library. That's what it was all about. Passing law school and eventually passing the bar.
And were you surprised when the results came out and your name was at that very top?
No, yes, I was very surprised. I was working then already. I was working in CISIP because they take in fresh bar examinees even before you get the results. So I was working already in CISIP at that time. So yes, it was very surprising. The eve before the results were released, I packed my things already. I can never be sure if you count or. So I put them all in a box and brought them home, actually, already. Yeah, because, well, if you fail, you have to get out of CISIP.
Oh, okay.
And then I slept through the night. And very early in the morning, one of my classmates who lived nearby our place, I think it was even, he was in our place around 7 in the morning, was knocking to break the news. And he broke the news to my mom. And obviously my mom couldn't believe it. And then called me from my sleep and said, really? How could that be? So I headed off and went back to the office with my stuff again.
And did you ask for a pay raise right after that? It's like, hey, I'm the bar topper.
No pay raise. But by that time, apparently the entire firm knew the results that night. So when I entered my room, I mean, there were so many, notes, etc., pasted on the wall, all of that stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of fanfare then. So that was a huge moment in my professional life.
But your world really changed in around 1998 when you met with MVP and you helped him and First Pacific essentially acquire a part of PLDT. How was that experience?
Well, that was quite a story because CISIP was not the law firm of First Pacific in the Philippines. The law firm, the main law firm of First Pacific was actually the Picasso Law Office. Okay. I mean, but I think they decided that they needed another firm because the acquisition was very sensitive. They wanted to keep it very discreet initially. And they thought that if we were to use our lawyers, even if we were in the background, I mean, things could leak out. So being discreet was very important in the strategy of the acquisition. So they decided, well, we need to hire a different law firm in the Philippines. And they consulted a law firm in Hong Kong that they had been using also for the longest time. And the managing partner there happened to be someone that I worked with for a long time in many of the banking and finance deals that we were doing then. I was also practicing banking and finance. And so I got a call from him and said, hey, Ray, we have a client, one of our major clients here in Hong Kong, and they have a major acquisition in the Philippines. And if you'd be interested to handle this deal, if you could clear your firm for conflict and see whether, these areas, you have any conflict in this area. So I went through the motion. So there was no conflict of interest with any other client. So I said, yes, I think we have no conflict, and I can handle the case. The firm can represent the client. Said, good. And then a week after, he sends me a list of questionnaires. It's like, wow, okay, wow. It's like I said, I told John Pedersen, wow, this looks like a bar exam question. Basically to test, how knowledgeable the firm was and I was when it came to mergers and acquisitions. So that was not difficult to do. So sent the answers to the questionnaire. I didn't hear from John Pedersen for a while. So I thought that was he probably didn't pan out, etc. So after 2 months, around July of 1998, I got a phone call again from him. He said, "Hey, Ray, you know that client that I was referring to you? So yeah, they decided to hire you, and you have a meeting today. The managing director of First Pacific is in Manila and wants to meet with you." I said, "As in today?" "Yeah, he's he's actually near your office. Their office is in the Metro Pacific building." I said, "Oh, in Rufino Towers." I said, yeah. So he revealed who the client was, etc. So I went there. Wow, the room was full of foreigners and Filipinos, all dressed in their blue suits, etc. So I said, this must be the real meeting. And then MVP comes out. He was very young then, and in his suspenders. So I said, "Wow, this must be the top guy."
Which he is.
So he was. And then he briefed everybody who the target shareholders would be. And he said, "Well, we need to commence negotiation right away." So we would negotiate with 4 main shareholders at that time. And he wanted the negotiation to take place almost contemporaneously, not one after the other, because we had to achieve a comprehensive closing and then buy out all of them. So yeah, and we did that in a span of 4 months.
Wow. So you must have really impressed the man in the suspenders, because he invited you to be one of the board of directors on PLDT right after acquisition, right?
Well, he was also short-handed, I suppose.
What do you remember as the hardest part about that initial transformation? Because, you took over PLDT from the old guards and you had to very quickly transform it based on what MVP wanted the team to do.
When you take control of a very old and storied institution, you realize, obviously, that the organization is very set in their ways, right? And introducing change is going to be very difficult. Culture changes are so difficult to implement from the top down to the organization. And PLDT was like that. I mean, a very old institution, very set in their ways. And it was a monopoly business at that time, or it had a long history of a monopoly operation. So there was not a lot of interest in customer service and customer satisfaction. I mean, if you're the only service provider in town, I mean, what's your incentive, right? Mm-hmm. I guess that was thinking. And so to be able to achieve this transformation of making the company more customer-centric and adopt new technologies, etc. So we needed, it was like pulling teeth, and you had to change some people along the way.
Speaking of transformation, you took over as the president and CEO of Meralco 2.5 years ago, roughly. How do you transform a 118-year-old organization, older than PLDT actually, right?
Yes.
And how are you going about that experience?
Well, the big difference between Meralco and PLDT is that Meralco is, to this day, a
Yes.
monopoly.
Mhm.
And it has only one product, electricity.
Yes.
No competitor within our franchise area, right?
Mhm.
So the first thing that I thought should be done by a company of this nature is to be customer-centric. I mean, that for me is the singular most important aspect of Meralco that should be changed.